Hey all, here is a replay version of the most recent live stream Q&A on all things Social Security that occurs every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is with all the little silences carved out of it. So I hope it's an easier listen for those who are doing the replay versus being there live. And we'd love to see you live. So feel free to pop in. Bye-bye now. Hey there. I need to know if you can hear me because I just turned on the headphones like 2 seconds ago. Barbara, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Earth One, thank you. Hi, Earth. How are you? What's going on, guys? Everybody get their taxes done? Anybody who needed to do them? What a nightmare. Hi, Kubi. Hi, Matt. I'm Matt from Virginia. You're probably new here, right? I know. Did you guys get your taxes done? Taxes. Barbara got a denial. Sorry, Barbara. Yeah, it was, I guess, I don't know. Taxes. Wait, we have local taxes that are like crazy. Do you guys have to pay local taxes like to your city for the privilege of working from your city? I think you pay that in the city you work. We have to pay that one, and I say I say it's in Stroudsburg, even though I'm in the Harrisburg area right now, because you can only pick one, so as your main place. But Doran Lee, you're in class. Nice to see you, Doran. But anyway, so yeah, so they have like you pay a certain percentage on your income, and they base it off of your state because the state, unlike the federal, doesn't let you not include the same amount of stuff. And then they also, I think it's kind of like a flat fee for called LST, but I think that's the privilege of breathing and stuff in your town. Oh no, it's just a big old, and I think it's very common around here in Pennsylvania. One company seems to handle it for so many of the municipalities. Anyway, I see Lauren is in the house. Let me just start along here, guys, and post any questions you have. Barbara Gillespie was here bright and early. Hi, Barbara. Earth One, confirmed you can hear me. Matt F. from Virginia. Kubi Dreams can hear. Barbara received a denial letter for SSDI stating she got cut off. Barbara, I'm sorry you got a denial letter. I hope you're going to appeal it. Figure out what was lacking and make sure you get that evidence. Let's see. Doran Lee says he or she is in class. Lauren Blackwell just got approved last Friday. Love it, love it, love it. Just wanted to stop in and thank you for all the videos. They gave me hope to hang in there. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And thank you for the kind words. That's really awesome. That part of your journey is over. Thank goodness, right? Now you can go on to the more fun stuff and hopefully getting better. Hi, Michelle. Good morning. Rat's Nest is in the house. Rat's Nest says, thank you for everything you do. March 5th, I had my LJ hearing and I was approved. Very good, very good. Did you just get the approval? Did we know you were approved, or is that something that was a little more recent? You know, like if you had it, did you know at the hearing, Rat's Nest, or did you have to wait for a decision? Which, you know, if he was nice and speedy, you could have it already. Barbara said, oh, low gamma, sorry. It will be 2 weeks tomorrow since I had my hearing with ALJ. Should I expect a letter in the mail soon? That's kind of on the early side. Even Rat's Nest got his kind of early low gamma. Well, he didn't say when he got it. So let's say he got it this week. It's been about a month. That's on the quicker side too. I've seen them. I had one recently that was really fast, 9 days. That's not typical. I was very happy to hear that. Sometimes they take like 2, 3, 4. 4 is getting a little long, but there's nothing you can really do about it, guys, because what are you going to do? Bug the judge? Get him a spanking on his hiney for not being fast enough? Remember, he's not the one writing it either. But I say, you know, when they have your case in their hands, I say, you just got to be patient. Barbara says, received a denial for SSDI stating the denial is because they have different rules. That doesn't really say anything. Different from what? LTD or... I was approved for SSI, gotcha, and widow disability. They said I can appeal the SSDI, but should I appeal because of rule? I don't know because I don't know your case. I have a very similar case right now. We appealed the SSDI, one on the SSI, although it turns out probably financially he's not going to be eligible for the SSI, but also became a widow like a year ago and had contacted them at that time, but they never attached it. So we're trying to make sure it gets attached with a protective filing of back then, you know, when the spouse died, so that she can get those benefits. And they're going to far exceed SSI anyways. No harm, no foul, really. But if she went under her own record, Barbara, it would be much higher than the spousal. So that's why we are appealing that. And given her age, I don't think it's likely that they would overturn her, because it is something you have to look at, because it is technically possible. Yeah, you can see I'm in a different place. See the storage back there? And Rat's Nest says, Kubi's still in reconsideration. Rat's Nest says, I don't think I was clicking on them. Sorry, guys. Just found out Friday. OHO office suggested I contact my lawyer for update. Portal still hasn't changed though, and no letter in mail. How'd you find out Friday? Did it say on your SSA.com account? All right, Barbara wants to know which rule she broke. So going back to it, Barbara won SSI, but she didn't win SSDI. And here's why, Barbara. How do I explain this? SSDI, you had an expiration date. You stopped paying for that insurance. So I just got to try one thing here real quick. All right, so you stopped paying for the insurance. You were no longer insured at some point. You had something called a DLI. I have videos on that, Barbara. They believe you're disabled now, and at some point since you filed for SSI, but that there's not sufficient proof to prove that you were disabled back when you had the insurance for the SSD. And because you stopped paying in, you didn't work at least a little minimal part-time, you stopped paying the premiums. So like any other kind of insurance, if you don't pay the premiums, it lapses. And that's what happened to your SSDI. And I wish people knew more about that, because I know plenty of people that could have pulled out 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week and kept their SSDI minimum going in, taxes, just so that they wouldn't, this wouldn't happen. But if you have widow, if your spouse that passed had a decent, primary insurance amount, that's something that you can get, maybe not the full amount at this age, but it is the other option. And if it's more than SSI, you're not going to be getting the SSI anyway. Rat's Nest, your letter of your award will come in the mail for sure. And your lawyer should have it. He should be able to see it in the electronic file and download it for you. Gregory's in the house. Hi, Gregory Petty. Hi, it's me, Gregory. My 3-year short form disability CDR is supposed to be here next month. My question is, will it come on time, or do CDRs sometimes come late? Oh yeah, they come late all the time. All the time, Greg, because it's just kind of like an estimated date. So depending on where they're at, where you're at, they could push it out more. Usually it doesn't come earlier, but I think we heard about one on here where it came way earlier. Don't forget to put your questions in, guys. And if you're here just hanging out, just say hi so I can say hi back. It's good to know the names. Rat's Nest says the lawyer had the approval letter in her portal. That's in your electronic file that she has access to. When she checked and emailed to me. The website is still on step 4, was able to schedule a phone appointment to set up auxiliary benefits. Awesome. So now your household is going to get more than just the PIA you have. There's going to be some based on these other people. So that's really cool. And you're probably going to be the representative payee for that. All right. Anybody got a fun story while we're waiting for questions? I don't see any questions. We are slow today, guys. Well, I could just tell you something unfortunate. I don't know how many of you were here like a year and a half ago. I think I must have missed one of the Wednesdays, and maybe I wasn't even doing Wednesdays then. Yeah, I was always doing Wednesdays, but maybe it was, I don't know. Was I doing them then? Oh, live stream. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe it was a few months after I started doing them. Oh, I don't know. But I had like this sudden in the daytime, and I took myself to the ER at like midnight because my stomach was hurting so bad. And it turned out it was my gallbladder. So they took it out. And I had some inflammation and stuff like that. And then it ended up being 3 hospital visits in the next 3 weeks, one of which was after I'd gone down to North Carolina to help with my husband, because his parent had passed and we need to clean up the house. So it was down there that what was supposed to be getting better, since there's no more gallbladder, did not. Or it was getting inflamed, and it turns out I had 13 stones that they had missed. Anyway, so everything's been kosher since. I don't really feel like I have to watch out for any foods. Well, now I think I know otherwise, because I had such an issue the last couple of weeks, and it came to a head yesterday. So I was doing a lot of research too. And I have all my meds. I just didn't have to take pantoprazole anymore or anything like that. Well, I am now. And Pepsid. I had some tramadol left over, but I took one of those too last night. And then it did work, and it quelled it. And I'm like, so now I'm doing the brat diet. So I had some chicken bone broth, toast with honey, and that's pretty much it today. But I don't have a great appetite right now anyway, so I guess that's okay. Anyway, that was it, because I was thinking yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't feel better. I don't know that I could. It was probably going to have to take me back to Stroudsburg, which is 2.5 hours away, so I could go to the doctor or the ER down there. But this seems to be working. Maybe I caught it in time before I really screwed myself up. Because we're eating, drinking, having fun a lot of the time. Michelle says, I keep checking my SS portal in hopes it says I don't have to go for a CE on Monday. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever saw that happen. So probably not. Speaking of what I was just talking about, we have Belle of the Bowel in the house. Hi, Belle. That's funny, considering what I was just talking about. Deanna's in the house. Hi, Deanna. Fredabug received the first check. Yay. I'm so glad for you. Danub Rants. Deneb says, so I've been through both my consultative exams, mental and physical, about 4 weeks ago, and I'm reading that it taking a little longer actually would imply in my favor rather than my denial. That kind of makes sense, maybe. Although I don't have a sound basis for thinking that. So, but I will say that a lot of times once they get those in, boom, they hit out a denial. So yeah, I would say if I were to make a stab at it, I'd say if it takes longer, probably, leans more than it would otherwise to something good, maybe. You had it does, but I don't see the rest of your question. Let me see if I can scooch on down and see if you got it in. It doesn't look like you did. But if you do have more question, Dan, just go ahead and ask it. Umo says, hi, Umo. Hi, Stephanie. Glad to get my recon paperwork in. Good. I can only laugh at my CE doc's report about no lint on my shoes. Yeah, I have to find a way. That's true. That's true. So I think what Umo might be averring to, guys, is if you ever read your CE reports and they talk about things like, I don't know, just maybe things being too perfect. Like, well, that shouldn't even be in their report. I've seen things like the cane looks like it's brand new and never used, implying that you're carrying it to just pretend you use one. So, I don't think it's appropriate when they put that stuff in. They're not supposed to be little investigators forming an opinion. They're supposed to be medical doctors giving medical opinion on specific things like range of motion, strength testing, all that stuff. So, hey, that's a little, and that's probably something that one could complain about and be like, what's he going to do if I wear jeans? Is he going to make a comment? Francine's in the house. Hi, Francine. Good afternoon. What is Form SSA 1696 for? That is how you appoint somebody to be your official appointed representative before the SSA. It can be a lawyer or it could be a non-attorney representative. That is what that is for. And you both sign it and send it in. What we do is we have it, we pre-populate it for them with their address and all their good stuff so they don't have to write that in on that form, plus the other ones we give them at the same time. And we get it back signed by them, then we sign it. It's already got the check boxes filled for yes, we're collecting a fee the normal way, blah, blah, blah. Fredabug says it was short by 400. Why? All right, so you got your first check. I don't know. Did you look at, maybe you're paying Medicare out of that? Is that possible? What else? I'm trying to think what else could be coming out of there. It's an SSD check, right? 400. I would look through your paperwork and see if they tell you what your first check is going to be, or if that's going to be every month. And if you're paying 400 for Medicare, that would tend to mean you had very high income. That's an IRMA adjustment. When we have very high income, we pay more for Medicare relative to, I say very high, but unless you have one of those life-changing events. I did this with my mom once, and in which case then you don't have to have, because if that was like they look at your last 2 years of income, and if they see it pop up, they're like, all right, he's not eligible for that lower subsidized Medicare everybody else is. He gets to pay a little bit more. And if you're like, no, that was only a lot because I sold my house, or I got a severance pay and I lost my job since, or something, then they can change that and not charge you more. But I don't know, because that's maybe not why you have the 400 taken out. You have to go find out. Sometimes they usually take this out of back pay, though. If you're going to be buying Medicare retroactively, because you were eligible 6 months ago before you even won, and you've opted, for various reasons, you opted to pay the premiums for those 6 months instead of not, then that might come out. But usually that's kind of back pay. So, although if it's, I don't know. Kubi Dreams, you have a broken heart. What's going on? Can everybody see that? Let me just see something. Don't be heartbroken. Barbara Gillespie says, thanks, Steph. I have a phone interview this Friday for the widow SSI benefits. I'll ask for a reconsideration before the accident happened, before my insurance lapsed. Well, and then just make sure you have the evidence from that time period. Like, did you look to see, was there evidence? Were you treating? Were you disabled at that time? And if so, did they have the evidence in there? So it's hard to know until you get your hands on the file. So you could try to get your DDE, where they list a lot of stuff, and a copy of the entire file if you're going to appeal, because you want to know what was in that file. Because if something was missing that you can get your hands on pertinent to that previous period, right, Barbara? You could tighten that up. Do remember, though, when you appeal a medical finding such as that, the new reviewer, it'll be a new person looking at it. It might be ALJ if you're on recon, or it'll be another adjudicator. They can, in theory, flip the whole thing if it was one of those, So hopefully you've looked at the risks and know your case enough to know that wouldn't be such a risk because of something concrete. Loki, okay, 8U. Hi, Loki. That looks like Seinfeld in there. Is that Seinfeld? Received SSDI a year ago. I'm 61 with a 5 to 7 year diary. Currently not working. Should I worry about a CDR? No, I don't think you should worry about a CDR as long as you're doing everything the right way. If you work, you're probably going to get reviewed because you're showing that you can work, which you weren't showing before. So that doesn't mean though, I mean, you're going to lose it, at all. I never see people lose it for that reason if they stay within the rules. So if they're going to lose it, it's because their medical evidence, they either stop going and treating, or their medical evidence show that they, tell their doctor, oh yeah, that treatment worked great. I am back at it. Oh, Kubi, are you sad because I was in pain? I know. I've really not been paying attention. We've been doing happy hours sometimes, and I hate to say it, but I'm just gonna have to be a total boring eater and teetotaler, which is fine. And it might get me exercising more. I don't know, because I had like flashbacks of how bad it was a year and a half ago when everything. I mean, I turned the when I was in North Carolina and had to get taken to the hospital because it hit me in like. It went from a gnawing, aching thing to I'm on my knees. Bullets are sweating out of my head all within like 10 minutes. And then I tried to wait it out because I'd taken a tramadol then that they'd given me from the surgery and it still wasn't working. And my husband's like, let's just go to the ER. And there's an ER right down the street where my mother-in-law used to live before she passed. And they were I could barely walk. And then they took me in and they tested me and I turned yellow. I didn't know it. Apparently I was very jaundiced. Even my whites were yellow. So something was going really, really bad wrong inside. So that's why I kept looking at it last night. Like, I don't think I'm yellow. And I do feel much better. I think I'm hoping I caught it in time and now I'm not screwing around. I really thought I was one of those lucky ones that had all that going on. And then once I got rid of the gallbladder, and those extra stones that were hanging out that no one seemed to see, slicing and dicing up the insides, that was what I thought. That's a little cocky. I shouldn't have done that, but I could eat. I've always been a spicy food eater. I like my hot peppers. I like my cherry bombs. I like buffalo sauce. Yeah, that'd be me. So I guess I'm not gonna be. Well, I'll see like brat diet for a couple weeks, see what goes on, and maybe try to add some things in slowly. But yeah, Kubi, I'm feeling much better. I thought I was getting a little tweaky this afternoon, but I think that was lower. If you know what I'm saying. I feel much better now, so I think it passed. And of course, I'm on Bell of the Bowel again. As soon as I'm talking about something about that, Bell, what's going on? Bell of the Bowel, that's so cute. Thank you. Disabled since 18, 30 years later, so you are 48. Recently lost parents. I am so sorry to hear that. Yeah, I lost my dad a long time ago now. Got a message that because of death benefits, I can no longer receive Medicaid. I'm on TP. You're on DAC. I'm on TPN tube. TPN tube feeds 18 hours a day. TPN, what does that stand for? LPN. I mean, I'm thinking of, are you on a feeding tube? Or is that something other? It feeds something else. You are a trooper. All right, hold on. Got a message from who that says because death benefits, I can no longer receive Medicaid. Because here's the thing. If by death benefits, this is important, guys, for DAC people. If you were getting SSI and therefore Medicaid, and then the parents passed away, and now when you say death benefits, that would be DAC, disabled adult child. Please confirm that. That's what I'm thinking it is. And if the only reason you have too much money for Medicaid is because your income from SSI went up because of the DAC, and no other reason, you didn't inherit $1 million or anything like that, no, there's a protection against that. That's specifically in the law. I know we've gone over this before, but it's probably been a while. So I bet you there is a video under the DAC playlist. It's an express law. I mean, this is not like just like when they feel like it. Definitely, I want to know where you got the message from. And what did it say? Did it say because you have increased income we are seeing, we think you may no longer be able to receive Medicaid? In which case, then you've got to call Medicaid and say, no, this is DAC. So find out, because you will get Medicare, but it's nice to have, well, I would take Medicare over Medicaid, but it does come with a premium, unless you're low enough income where you have Medicaid, and then Medicaid will pay premium, deductible, and copays that would come with Medicare. Medicare gives you so many more options of who to treat with, what you want to do, than Medicaid. So I prefer it. Barbara says, for future reference to your viewers, at step 4, I was told it was for non-medical review, and I did pass at least, I don't know what this means. What do you mean you passed at least the 2 claims? You were denied, right, Barbara? Didn't we establish that? Denied for the SSD, right? Yes, I mean, you're definitely found disabled, so, or else you wouldn't be eligible for the widows, right? Unless it was widow's retirement and the SSI. So the non-medical review, I know you've probably heard us talk about this before, Barbara. They send that to everybody withdraw. It's very annoying because there should be nothing to non-medically review if the person didn't pass step one, which was being medically disabled. Of course, you did. I mean, you'd have to be non-medical review for SSI and probably for the widows because the financials have to prove that at least you're not working more than SGA. It's actually different from SGA. It's an earnings limit, I believe. I think it's a different number. Francine says, thank you. You are welcome. Belle of the Bow. Can you tell I love that name? It's so funny. I also get Medicare. Could I lose it too? Belle, what were you getting Medicare for? Did you have SSD in your own name? Now I'm confused because if you didn't have DAC and you didn't have SSD in your own name, you had SSI, there would be no Medicare. However, if you already had Medicare, then that would be because you were on DAC before. And if you were on DAC before, what are those death benefits you're talking about? Did you inherit a bunch of money? Yeah, that's going to get you off Medicaid. I mean, it should, right? Seriously, that's for the poor people. I don't know. You have to clear that up, Val. Belle, I think that's so funny and so timely. Barbara says, I know we wonder if the medical passed. For me, it did. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then getting the non-medical notice doesn't tell people if they did. You might have already known, though, for some other thing they might have sent you, or you didn't. And then you're probably like, hey, what's going on? Umo says, CE report can be oddly entertaining. Oddly, you have to have a sense of humor, right, Umo? And very false, saying all these measurements were taken when only about 10% of what was on the report was actually done by the doc. Go ahead and write down. I think I already messaged this. I always tell people, write down what did not happen that they said happened. Now, not in terms of how they interpreted it per se. If they said his strength was a 4 to 5, and you're like, no, I know I'm only a 3 out of 5. That's not. He's entitled to that finding. But if he says, I had him do the heel to toe and he did it just fine, and he never had you do the heel to toe walk, or he never tested your strength, he never had you pull his fingers, he never did any range of motion things with you, never did the straight leg test when you were lying down or sitting up. SLR is probably what would be in the report for that. I would take note and share them to your lawyer and say, this was not done, this was not done, this was not done. And your lawyer might just send it to the DDS or the SSA and make a complaint. Okay. And if they put things in there that not part of the job, I think to put in there, like lint on the shoes, like so, that's because I'm kind of clean when I go out. It didn't say I couldn't wipe my shoes, or my wife couldn't, right? Anyway, we could, somebody could maybe send something. And then you say, that's not happened now. I think you said, that's now happened to me twice. The first CE I ever did, I was in and out in 8 minutes. They vary, right? Rob Levy? How do you say that, Rob? Is in the house. Rob says, I unfortunately already had signed for representation before I started watching it. Oh, that's okay. I'm sure your representative's going to do great by you. Remember, they don't get paid unless they win for you. Curious about your thoughts on transferable skills for 55-year-old carpenter, permanent shoulder restrictions, bad hip. I think it's a skilled job, obviously, but I would tend to agree. I would tend to think they would not be transferable to something sedentary, perhaps something light. Presumably, you've proven that you can't do medium level work with that hip, and your carpentry job might have been medium level work. You probably lifted more than 20 pounds on that job, ladders and stuff like that, tool bags, I don't know, wood, planks, etc. So that's 2 things right there. And if you just prove then that you are limited to light or sedentary work, those skills as a carpenter, would they really transfer to sedentary work at a desk or light work? I'd like to argue not. And at 55, it has to be in an industry that is really, really spot on close to what you're already doing. So they can't just go like, well, he can work for this publishing company writing books on carpentry. Then you have to have a skill of a writer, I think. So I think you probably have a really good case if you follow your lawyer or your non-attorney rep's directions on building your evidence, in all the ways, not just what you've already done before you did this, but the ongoing nature that you have to do, right? Fredabug says, my check was supposed to be $3,300, but it was $2,900 for SSDI. Oh, that's the $400 drop. So did you have higher income in the last couple of years, Fredabug? Like, did something, were you working and making a nice chunk of change, and that's showing up in the tax records? And now they're like, Irma applies to her for Medicare. They have like, I don't know if it's like, if you're married, is it like 150,000 or something? Maybe it pops up a little bit. I'm not sure exactly how it all works. I haven't done it in a long time. I did it, like I said, for my mom. Income, Irma, income related Medicare adjustment or something like that. I'm butchering it a little bit. I would call them. It should be in your award letter, I would think, but it could be a Medicare premium. And if you don't have that same income because you're no longer working that nice big chunky job, you need to tell them. Tanya's in the house. Tanya says, my Social Security account, it says that my application was selected for a federal quality review on April 14th. What does that mean? I have some videos on this, Tanya, but in a nutshell, they do like random audits of cases. I know they do it for both awards and denials. While I always think they probably do it more for awards, we know for a fact they do them for denials because it happened on one of my guys. First time ever. And it flipped it from a denial on initial to an award. And it was before I filed the appeal for reconsideration. Thank goodness. So they're just looking at it to make sure that the adjudicator followed all the federal rules. So it's just like a checks and balances, makes total sense. And I tend to see it high rate of them just agreeing that the adjudicator did everything right. We did have someone on here who said that they had been awarded, and then when the FQR happened, that person was denied. I'm not sure why they were told they were awarded while it was going to FQR. That's troublesome to me. Like, why do that to somebody? Why tell them they won when it's not clinched yet? Wait till it doesn't get grabbed by FQR. Nobody needs that. Yes, they are. Are consultative exams ever done during the recon phase? This is UMO. Yes. Not usually, though, if they did it on initial. Sometimes it's when they skipped it on initial, they might do it on recon. In fact, they almost always would, I guess. But I wouldn't really expect it. Of course, you want to be aggressively going for more diagnostics and stuff of all the different areas that you might not be focusing on, if any, that are in that musculoskeletal area, because for some reason, and we obviously all disagree when they do this, but for some reason they thought your ability to lift, carry, walk was greater than what you said. We wholly disagree with that, of course. Everyone does, or else they wouldn't file. But so you really want to get show more like proactiveness. And I'm not speaking even general. I'm not speaking specifically to you. I don't have your file in front of me or anything, but generally it's always because it was just not rising to the standard. They want to see a little bit more. Doesn't mean it might not rise to the standard for a judge, by the way. It could be the exact same stuff, but you don't know. So I think the wisest thing is to push for the things that are physical therapies, conservative therapies of, medicinal nature, not necessarily like popping pills, of course. Getting updated diagnostics if it's gotten worse. I mean, an MRI that showed maybe a little bit and now it shows a worsening, that can be strong too. Okay. Umo says, cannot type apparently today. I know that feeling. Umo, yes, I know. I got to just take it. I forget, Umo, that I'm as old as I am and I still play like I'm younger. I've learned to like slow down, like running down the stairs and stuff like that after, injuring myself. But that took me until about 2 years ago to really like be more careful. So the same is true with what we put in our bellies, like my belly and GI is way older than it was. So I got to adjust with it, I think. And it's, you guys probably all know because you've had to do that for sure because you got overt disabilities from whatever's going on. We all have impairments, but yours are the disabling kind when it comes to work. Mine isn't, except when it has an exacerbation, in which case that's called a sick day. And that's it. But yeah, no worries. I'm actually, this whole thing, it really started a couple weeks ago, but it was this nudging, like what do you call it? Gnawing at me. And then yesterday it got like pretty bad. And that's when I was like, oh, I got to start. So I just redid my research. Incidentally, don't laugh. I used like one of the standard AIs out there. Like the one I used was Claude, but I would use Chat GPT if I felt like it. Don't laugh, but I asked a lot of questions. And I kind of know the answers because I've been down this road before, but I just wanted to it was so funny. It was really fun. But it gave me, when I was like, should I do this or this? I'd be like, I think you should do this because like it was. And it gives you all the reasons, and you can get all the citations to all the Johns Hopkins and, everything else that supports it and all that. So I don't know. I fixed my foot with, I had a skin boo-boo on my foot and I fixed it. It took like 3.5 months by following. I sent in pictures and everything. All right. Just saying, use it for the good. Phoebe says, wow, that really sucks. That's good. Well, now your body does not lie. I know. You just, we all think we're kind of immortal and we keep doing what we're doing because change is hard. And I've done major changes though in the past. I quit smoking when I was like in my early 30s and I was I was a chain smoker for some ultralights. You know, even though I'd failed many, many times before, I quit that. So, and that was cold turkey. So it's doable. You just have to have the right mindset. I feel pretty, I feel pretty good about it, actually. I've kind of been wanting an excuse to be like, no, honey, I can't go out to dinner tonight because, or, you know, so not that I don't want to go out to dinner, but when I'm trying to like, it gives me a more stronghold to make the decisions that will make, they'll be better for my health. And my husband is very supportive. So he saw what I went through before and he was terrified. So he's very supportive. Joel's in the house. Hi, Joel. I'm in SSDI stage 1. SSI return documents back to me, birth certificate, etc. Is there anything else myself or my lawyer should be doing at this point, or is the ball in the SSA's court for records? Well, yeah, they're going to send it to anything that comes in, notify your lawyer and say, now, are you filling this out for me based on the information I gave you, or am I filling it out? Do I send it to you? Do I send it right to what I always like my people to do is let me know through a message or whatever. We have a whole messaging system of anything they get in the mail. Or if they get a phone call, I would say, don't answer it, let it go to voicemail, and I'll call them. But at this point, as long as you're doing what they're saying, you got that stuff in, that might have been the last thing that they needed, because then they're going to get it up to the whole different office. It's not going to be in your field office anymore. It's going to be up in the medical workup office, also referred to as the DDS, Disability Determination Services. And it's also called other things in other states. So it can vary. Bureau of Disability, the BOD, you know, depending on what the state decided to call it. And there's 50 of those states. So, but everyone kind of knows when you say DDS that it's whatever way it's called. And they will be sending you, just so you know, a function report, 99%. And if you had more than one job in the last 5 years, they're going to probably send you a work history report to complete. So as I always say, it doesn't hurt to start formulating your answers now. You can get those forms right online. So at least you'll have your answers formulated. They're going to have their own form with a barcode for your particular case. That's on the first page, though. You could just redo that page and tack the rest of it on. That's what I do. I don't even have to now, though, because normally I can upload it directly to their electronic file, but in the rare instances I can't. Sometimes I'll get a person who's midstream in an initial and they just got demand for function reports due in 2 days and they don't have a lawyer, and they're like, can you be my lawyer? And I'm like, yes, and don't do that. Send that to us and we'll make sure that that's you know, we work those answers with you to make sure you answer it accurately and responsibly and all that. And when that's the case, I'm not even attached to their case yet. So then they have to send me the fax number that's noted in the cover letter that always comes with it, and the first page of the function report or work history report or whatever it is, because it's going to have that little barcode associated with them. And I'll put that together, and then I will be faxing it into the fax number. It's like a scanning number, but it'll have that barcode on, so it's going to know how to get right into your file. But this addresses other question you have, Joel. Is the ball in the SSA's court for records? It's also in your court, in your lawyer's court, because if the SSA doesn't get the records, are you going to just let them not have it and be like, oh, well, I guess I'll get denied? Or are you going to be trying to find out what they can and cannot get? There's an adjudicator. You have a lawyer, so really that should be him checking it in. I'm assuming he doesn't want you calling your adjudicator. I mean, I don't want my people calling anybody. I want to listen to it all. You know, you're going to want to make sure that you can contact your doctors if they haven't sent the records in timely. The doctor's office and say, listen, you got to get these in right away. They ask for them or whatever, and see what they say. And maybe they'll say, well, I'll give them to you. And then fine, take them and then send them in yourself. But you get my point, right? Belle of the Bow, it was a great sense of humor, says all nutrition IV. So are you like always having to be like in a recliner chair with a IV hooked up to keep that nutrition going? That seems like an awful lot of time. Okay, so Belle says no, it was not SSI, no inheritance, state Medicaid, that's due to being poor. But you said you had Medicare. That's where my confusion is. So maybe that was a typo. Said I had Medicare. Will I be losing that too? No, that's what you get with DAC. If you're trying to go for DAC will get you Medicare, and you will not lose Medicaid. If the only reason you would lose Medicaid is because of the new DAC money increasing, making you not poor enough under the rules of Medicaid in your state. I don't know what yes, no is. Sorry. Through my dad, when he retired, no dollars. All right. Sounds like, so you've had the DAC for a while. Well, if you didn't lose, I don't really understand. Sorry, no dollars. So did your income go up? I mean, you said you're getting DAC, you don't want to lose your Medicaid. If you had DAC a long time ago, you haven't lost your Medicaid. Are you saying suddenly now they're saying years later after you've won DAC that you had DAC before and now for some reason you are now getting a letter years later that I want to know who from? Like, who sent you that letter? and I would make sure it's legitimate. And then I would look into it, because if it's again, the dollars from before wouldn't have. And so I don't really understand what's going on, because there is that law that protects against that. Scott Kellogg's going into his hearing. Oh my goodness. Fingers crossed for you. Come on. You got this. Bell of the Bowel says, heading into, oops, nope. The message came from my local Department of Human Services. Okay, so that'd be your state, saying that now that I get extra money due to my father's death, I am no longer eligible for Medicaid assistance. Well, what more money are you getting due to your father's death? Are you getting more money due to your father's death? You were already getting SSD based on his retirement, right? So I don't think that's true. I got to go find the specifics. I don't know why it would be untrue for one benefit, like, he retired and you got whatever that amount was versus, more now that it's a survivor benefit. Definitely got to look into that though. But you do get the Medicaid. So the Medicare is what you get because you're on DAC. And if you're going to get one, okay, Bell's clarifying, became eligible for Medicare when my dad retired and went on Medicare himself. Well, you became eligible for Medicare because you retired and collected Social Security retirement, and you proved or had already proved you were disabled before the age of 22. So that's when you got the DAC and the Medicare. So I would be very surprised, Belle, if the rule that protects you from losing Medicaid due to DAC monies alone would somehow say, well, when it was retirement DAC, which was the retirement amount less than the survivor amount, or was it always the same percentage? Happy Love Your Legal Team Day. Thanks, Justin. Rob, okay, Rob, you lift a drywall up to 50 pounds. Yeah, that's medium work. If you had to lift something over 50 pounds, that would be heavy work. So I think you're doing good, kid. I do. And I can say kid because you're only 55. They also put how it took my wife and I too long to take off my leg braces and how my walker looked brand new. Yes, in caps. I do not abuse my items given to me by my doctors. I understand. And yeah, particularly if you only just got the walker in the last year. I mean, yeah, I think it's appropriate to do a professional, not angry or, emotional letter. So get a list together of all the things that did not take place. And you can point out things like that too, but I'm sure your lawyer is going to catch them as well and put some together. By the way, guys, if you're ever doing that, I always say don't do it while your case is still pending before you've gotten the first decision or whatever decision you're in, because it might just be an award. And now you might have just kicked that CE report right out, that if they don't have it, maybe they have to pull the case back and do it. I don't know. I'm just saying, see if you're going to win first. If you don't win, then that's when you could do it. And of course, you could do it anyway, just because you want to be forthright about, this CE shouldn't be working on other people, but wait till you're securely in your benefits, I think, before you do that. Like literally, like till you got all the benefits. Don't put any cog in the wheel of this big machine that we call SSA. You know what I mean? Do it once everything is copacetic. And I always wonder if that could be something that can go in those OIG page where they let you file a complaint, but they're always talking about fraud. I mean, one could say that's a little fraudulent if he's not telling the truth, like literally fabricating events that never took place. That's mostly what I'm talking about. Francine says, I was diagnosed with vascular disease of the brain, ischemic strokes, PTSD. Sorry, I thought I heard something. I'm like, is there a mouse over there? PTSD and a bunch of other mental alphabets. My doctor filled out a mental residual against me going back to work. Okay. I'm sorry that you're going through all that. Francine wants to know, does mental residual hold a lot of weight? Well, that could be a double-edged sword. If you said something that's going to be actually contrary to fitting yourself in the right square peg hole because of something he said that they do give him a lot of credit for, then it would be a bad thing. Generally, to be in theory, if opinion in the mental, we call it medical source statement, he's obviously trying to give an opinion on, well, depends if he talks about residual capacities. If his opinion in the letter is evidenced in his treatment records and is consistent with them and is not wildly inconsistent treating doctor, I think it should get a lot of weight. And I think that's the basis upon which they're supposed to look at it. However, as you might know, they got rid of the treating provider rule. That was something they were fighting for back in 15 and 16, and they succeeded, which meant back then the treating provider had the most clout of anybody. They're like, yeah, let's get rid of that one. So, and I'm just concerned where you said here, my doctor filled out a mental residual against me going back to work. That's the last thing he wants to say. If he says she can't work, if he says she cannot go back to work or do any kind of work, that is going to be something that turns them off It is specifically a conclusion reserved for the commissioner of the SSA, and they seem to take a little bit of offense when a doctor tries to pretend that he knows all the vocational requirements of all 12,000 and something occupations that are out there that have to actually be considered. So what's the chance of your doctor being a vocational expert with a lot of years of experience on top of being a physician, right? Sorry, I'm just waving this around a little bit. Hey, do you guys see those boxes back here? I don't know if you could see. I was just looking. I go, what is those boxes that are going to be in my background? Those are MREs. Yeah, there's a bunch of MREs in here. My husband likes to have them stocked just in case. I kind of agree. Rob said, thank you. Flying blind, waiting to be denied. Aw, you might win, Rob. I think, yeah, keep your chin up. I'm glad. The info you have given has been very helpful. I'm glad. If you have anything you want in a video, just ask. And you can always ask it in any, post it under any video you see. I will get to them. And then I will, if it's something that can be done in a video, I'll do it. If it's something I really can't, but I can just answer you quickly, I'll do that instead. Like, you know, in typing or something. A typed response. Justin Zane says, found the POMs online. Is it worth researching, or so that I'll be left to our claims expert? Yeah, you're not going to get anything out of that. Plus, if you can read all that, then they're going to say you're not disabled. All that sitting you could do to read that, all that focusing and concentration, you know what I mean? Yeah, you could do a sedentary desk job. The POMs is how they operate. It's not like the same as a federal regulation or a law. But we, you know, I pointed out to them a lot of time when they're violating it on something, for what it's worth. Belle says, no inheritance, no job, no dollars. Sorry, slow typist. That's okay. I am going to seek out some local help and we'll check out my DAC status. You do great things here. Thank you. You are very welcome, Belle. And I love your name. I love your screen name. You gotta have things that make you laugh, you know? Justin Zane said, my CE doctor determined I was fit for duty, although I showed up with a bum shoulder and was scheduled for surgery. There were other issues with that doctor. Do recons always be based heavy on CE? You mean if that happened on initial, does the reconsideration people consider that CE? Yeah, it's part of the medical evidence, but that's why you need to go and build stronger evidence to show that that's wrong, right? Such as, I don't know, physical therapy, occupational therapy, possibly the injections if, you know, technology has changed and there's different ingredients rather than saying no to an injection. The same. John Herrera says, hi, I'm a veteran. Thank you for your service, John. I was recently awarded Section S and it was backdated. Oh, Sec S. And it was backdated to 2013. 55 years. Is it worth me applying for disability? Well, what is Sec S? I don't know what you're talking about. Is that a veteran thing? If it's 100% or some payable amount of P&T, is it worth it for me applying? Well, what is your SS rate, your Social Security rate going to be? Would you want that every month in your pocket? You know, like, and also if you don't prove your SS disabled, all these zeros are going into your Social Security retirement calculation for your benefit amount. And so what you see in your estimate is no longer going to be the case because that one presumed you're going to continue to make the money you're making forevermore till like 62. Why wouldn't you not want to take the money on the table? Yeah, it's another claim and it's a pain in the rear, but at least, I mean, the one thing I can say about my vets, and I'm so relieved that they're not the ones that are hanging on by a financial thread. Not if they're spending wisely, of course. I mean, if they're living high in the hog, then they are. But you know, when most of them are bringing in $4,000 or $5,000 a month, or maybe high threes, I don't know. You know, somebody can live on that without starving for sure. You know, but why not get that extra $2,000 or whatever it's going to be, and then make yourself be, you know, living on $5,000 or $6,000. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, if you think it's too much money and you want to just donate it, then donate it. You know what I'm saying? Jill says, great job on the quit smoking. I know, it was like, it was the best thing I ever did. Most empowering thing I ever did is quitting smoking. That was in the year 2000. I did the same last year after 40 years. No booze either. Yeah, I think with my belly, I got to lay off the booze myself. That's going to be interesting. Let's see, after 40 years. Yeah, I smoked for like 13, but I will tell you, I was one of those people, I was single. I was always going out with my friends after work and stuff. And on a Friday, I'd bang out way more than a pack. We'd be out like, we were having fun. And a lot of my friends smoked, guys and girls, you know, not everybody, and then I know when I quit, I don't know if some of you guys smoke, I think I did try chewing on straws because I was still going out with the friends to all the places where you would normally pick up a cigarette. And by the way, at that time, you could smoke in restaurants and bars. And shortly thereafter, though, I was in Jersey, and Jersey made that generally not allowed anymore. So, and I was like, it's fine for me because I'd already quit. I think I'd been quit for like 2 years by the time they did that. Yeah, I would chew on straws, and then my teeth were hurting. I'm chewing on straws when I was out. The biggest thing I learned was the urge will pass. Don't give in to it. It'll pass. And then it'll just be the misery. And I remember telling myself too, Joel, Stephanie, you're done. You're done, you're done, you're done. The way it happened also was interesting. My father, who, great guy, he had been a smoker and quit when I was young because he got an ulcer, which is probably why I have my GI issues going on. I did have an ulcer. And he had quit like I said, long ago when he had to medically. But he said, Stephanie, and I think I was living back home with him the second time after law school. And I was trying to save up money to go move in, get an apartment with my friend. And he says something to the effect of, I bet you $1,000 you can't quit smoking come March 1st. So this is the year 2000. This is around January. And I'm like, well, Dad, how long would I have to be quit before I get the 1,000? And he goes, oh, you get it on March 1st. But if you fail, you owe me the 1,000 back, and you owe me 1,000 because now I won the bet. I'm like, I really needed that money for a deposit. And so he was going away. I think he was going to Venezuela. He used to go down there a lot because it was affordable for him. And he, when he came back, I was quit. And I also knew we were from the same town I grew up in, and we knew everybody. And he had like little spies all over town to see if I smoked, because I was still going out with my friends, remember? But I didn't. I never even took a drag. I mean, I was just like, no way, no way, no way. Because I had failed many times quitting before, many times. So this time and I said, Stephanie, you're going to either be okay with it, or you're going to be a weotch for the rest of your life if that's the way you're going to choose to be because you don't have nicotine or whatever. And then it probably took a couple of years. I woke up a couple of times in the morning having had a dream that I was out and cheating and smoking, like cheating on the bet and smoking, like I faltered and I gave me the temptation and I smoked, And then I'd lie in bed and be like, oh no, I didn't. Oh my God, I just failed, after 8 months. And then I would be like, wait a minute, I didn't go out last night. It's Tuesday or something. But your mind plays funny games on you, that's for sure. And then after a few years, it was like a nothing burger. So it's just a matter of time. You just got to buy time. Hi, Tanya. Since my application is being federally reviewed, should I continue to update SSA on new doctor visits and medication? No. Or should I wait until I get a denial notice? Yes. And you're not going to get a denial. Fingers crossed. Yeah, no, don't rock the boat. They're not going to look at anything more now. It's out of those hands, and the adjudicator doesn't have it anymore. That's the person you sent stuff to, right? So Umo says only physical was on initial and no MHCE. Yeah, MH is very important for people under 50. Mental health, guys, something that shows that you will not be able to transfer those brainiac skills you had. Because it could be very mild anxiety from being disabled, adjustment disorder. You're distracted and you can't concentrate on those kind of things like you used to be able to. So if that's the case, anxiety or concentration, I suggest you follow up for it, even if you kind of don't really want to. And it's not really bothering you that much because you don't even have a job now. So, and it wouldn't necessarily stop you from doing an unskilled job. But the point is to stop you from being able to prove you can't transfer those skills from that prior job to a new one. And that's for the over 50 crowd. The grids, as they say. Mephisto says, nice to see you, Mephisto. How many times do you think DDS pulls a claimant's medical record while they're working up that file? I don't know. I think it might vary. Do you have any idea how many different claimant files they have assigned to them at one time? No, I'm dying to know. Remember years ago, speaking with a lady, she wasn't a DDS person. She worked at one of those big factories, like an advocate, so-and-so disability. I recall she said something ludicrous like, we have 500 cases each. So I knew as the representative side, I think she had left because she's like, we're not even doing justice or whatever. And I think when I met her, she was now working for herself and taking a reasonable caseload, obviously, because I know, the theory is that for that, those kind of entities are working on a numbers game. If you take 10,000 cases, I'm not gonna be able to do the math really fast. If you're gonna take 10,000 cases, not that you can work on all of them, but 50% might win organically, whether they had you or not, with or without the extra work, right? And if that gives them X millions of dollars, more than enough to pay their staff, underpay their staff, keep that 3-car garage for the partners and stuff like that, then it's a numbers game. You just need to win 50%. And that's ludicrous. I mean, they should be winning very close to 100%, and that's with taking some risky ones, you just do the work. You can tell ones that, one of our intake, things is to determine if this person follows the advice. Is there a path to him or her winning? Are these impairments of the type, given what she says is wrong with her? Is there a path to winning that the person could reasonably accomplish by following evidence development directions from the attorney, which is basically medical treatment, ideas for growing that evidence, which is all the medical evidence. Once you do that, then the question is the person now following it? If they're not, then you've kind of taken yourself off of that higher trajectory, and it is what it is. And as long as they're not being completely unhelpful, then, you stick with it, and you just have to accept the loss if they don't pull it up, but let them know that they're risking their own case. But that person said they had 500 cases each, and that wasn't DDS. That was a private firm looking for profit. So DDS, I don't know, but I'm really curious. That is curious. I know that they don't overload them beyond a certain amount, because that's why people are waiting in the bullpen to be assigned an adjudicator. So I guess they have a stopgap at a certain number, and when they award or deny, then another one comes in the pike. That's what I'm suspecting anyway, because we know they have a bullpen. You're on deck for, waiting for your adjudicator, which is very frustrating. That started, I don't know, several years ago. I don't feel like it was like that ever, like 20 years ago. Belle says, no, got backpack, look down, Medicare received through dad because of DAC. That's what I'm talking about. It's not through dad. It's because as a DAC recipient, you get Medicare. You follow? So when he retired, you got DAC and you got the Medicare, and you got to keep your Medicare. Kate, I think you're saying, but you're saying now that dad passed, and I'm sorry for your loss, by the way. Oh, okay. Was it like, refresh me, Belle, was it like when he's living and taking his own, you get 50% as the benefit as a DAC dependent, and then when he died, you're a survivor and went up 75? I still think we should look into that. Kick me, Belle, in a comment on one of the videos, and I'm going to try to dig, because that is super, super important. We need to know if that's true, because we know they couldn't kick you off when you got the dependent benefits. What if your dad had never retired and he just passed away, and you got the 75 or whatever? Then that rule, I believe, granted, we don't practice this, so I just happen to know it because I like to look things up, in the general field, because you guys ask questions. But I would be surprised if they're like, well, if he died, you don't get the, the Medicaid, but if, because the money is not supposed to, it's supposed to be a carve out. So let's try to find out. So nudge me. I don't have all the time in the world, but it's something that I think is important, that I will put it on the list. Gary's in the house. Hi, Gary Wetz. I don't think we've met. We had same issue with losing Medicaid when transitioning from SSI to DAC. There is a law, yes, 1634 protections that require HHS to reclassify as a different Medicaid class and restore it. Oh, so this is helpful for you, Belle. You need to, we could try to do more research too, but Gary makes a very good point and gives the number, section 1634 of something. It's going to be very easy to look up. Yeah, I would do that, because you probably just have some little clerk in there not having a clue. I wouldn't be surprised if. But Gary, you see Belle's situation, right? Was on as a dependent of a retired father, DAC, and then it increased when the father passed away, because now it became survivor, is what I think she's saying. Well, I can't imagine that would change it, like what you're talking about, Gary. That's what I'm talking about. Great share, Gary. See, read what Gary's saying here. That's super helpful. Belle says, never heard of DAC until a couple of weeks ago. Well, you were on DAC when your dad retired, because if you were under 18, you would be a dependent benefit. It's not called DAC. DAC is disabled adult child. That's why. Hakasad 399 says, nice to meet you, Haka. What are the acceptable uses for Form SSA 795? Can I use this form for submitting a pre-hearing brief? No, you wouldn't use it for a pre-hearing brief. You can use it for anything that you're saying that's a fact. Your brief is more of a presentation. The evidence upon which, let's say you're making a statement about your pain, you have your function report, it's already in there. I don't know that you have to repeat it unless you think your function report doesn't show updates and you want to say, I want to update you on some of the things that changed in my function report, so you have updated information about my symptoms. You can put that in a 795. Then the judge will have it before your hearing, although you could also testify at the hearing. Just make sure you testify consistently. So know what you said. Pre-hearing brief goes in on its own thing. It's not evidence, presentation, argument, persuasion. The evidence you're going to rely on or point to in the pre-hearing brief is stuff that's already in the medical file. And if it's not the OHO, right? ALJ, don't even waste your time doing a pre-hearing for adjudicators. I know I heard a couple non-attorney reps saying, oh, yeah, and I think we win because of that. I don't think so. You would be referring to 1F, 2F, 3F, the F file for all the medical evidence that you're pointing to. If you're pointing to something like your function report, that would be probably in the E file, I think. Maybe. Yeah, I think so. So you know what I mean? Like you're pointing to what's already in his file. You're not, in your pre-hearing brief, you're not submitting new evidence. It's got to be evidence he's already put in the evidentiary file. It's got a label. So I hope that helps. But if you want new evidence in there, like your statement as to your pain or your statement as to something that occurred or 795 can be anything. It's basically you testifying on paper. So it's got to be something that you personally know. It can't be how you feel. Like, I feel I should win because of, no, that's an argument. That's persuasion. That's not evidence. 795 is now evidence because it's a statement under oath, basically, by you as to things that are in your personal knowledge. Not things Bell of the Bell has a question mark. DAC. Are you questioning DAC? Disabled adult child. It's a child disability benefit, and it's only for those that were disabled, are adults, and were disabled since before 22. And they can prove it when they're 40, or they can prove it, and by the way, it means that there's got to be like a continuous disability. It can't be where they were covered and then sought it again. So if they worked SGA, they're not going to be able to get it. Gary says, Medicaid stays in place even if DAC benefits increase. Yeah, that was my understanding. The adult child can receive higher Social Security income without losing services. Right. That's what that whole 1634 is. That's what he's talking about, Belle. So I think, Gary, you're saying you think the person that notified her from HHS or wherever just screwed up and that I'm calling you a she because it says Belle of the Bell. So if you're a guy, let me know. But I perceive Belle to be a girl's name. Yeah. So I think you're saying it's probably a mistake on their part, right? There is no separate rule that says, but that didn't make sense to me either. Gary goes on to say, parents can safely retire without jeopardizing the child's Medicare. Retire and then safely pass away and go to heaven, please. If the parent dies, the child's survivor benefit increases. But thank you. Are you reading that off of chat or something? That's awesome. Good. Stephen Thompson's in the house. Hi, Stephen. So question for you. I'm currently at DDS phase. I called and they said they found I'm at a chiropractor through the VA. Okay. So now they're waiting on medical evidence from the chiro. Is that normal? Well, is it normal that you forgot to tell them that you made that error? Yeah, I guess people forget. Your responsibility to if you want your adjudicator to find out about medical stuff, you have to tell him about it. You either send it to him, or you tell him and say, can you order this? And he might, and then say to him also, if you for some reason have trouble, please let me know, but they should send out a request for it, and they might even be able to do a HITMER because it's VA. Not always. Some of these offices are weird, but yeah, I mean, they probably saw reference to the chiro in your VA records, and like you're seeing or they saw the referral or something. Their job is to help get those medical records. You still have the job of getting them as well, though, and informing them. Stephen goes on to say, I didn't even start my SSD on my back, but they're asking about info on it now. Well, that was your mistake. I mean, your back is the one that's going to help you meet a musculoskeletal restriction that helps reduce your RFC, your exertional RFC. Back, knees. I would say musculoskeletal. For the walking part and lifting, feet, ankles, knees, legs, hips, back. For the lifting, it can be all those, back included, but also the arms and the shoulders. So, I mean, they peg people at too high of an RFC. Some people here are fully aware that they're pegged at when they cannot do light work. They cannot be picking up to 20 pounds occasionally throughout the day. It's got to be something less than, 2.5 gallons of milk at a time. And that's because they try to peg them for a higher RFC. That's how they can deny you. If you're under 50, a little bit less critical, but you want to get every impairment in there, Stephen. How are you going to carve out the jobs that your back won't let you do? Because otherwise, maybe you could be lifting 100 pounds a day and you could be doing heavy work. If your problems are mental, they're like, oh, we have some heavy work. That job is very solo. You don't have to be around customers or coworkers. You just have to be strong. Well, you have no evidence of SSD problems. I mean, back problems. Then maybe there'd be no evidence that you could do that. So your RFC is heavy. Akassad says, what is an acceptable doctor visit schedule, i.e. is a 6-month interval good enough? Are you fighting for disability benefits? I don't think that's good enough. At least not if you're at the acute early stages, getting diagnoses, getting, it is sometimes where that's what it becomes once it's just like a chronic condition. So that's kind of understandable. And you're still fighting your claim, but there better be something else in between. Stagger them. If it's physical, like an orthopedist, then what about PT? What about a course this year and a course next year of PT? If you have problems with your feet, are you going to a podiatrist? I mean, everything's got to be kind of kept up. So eventually all those doctors, it's not going to be once every 6 months and you have this big gap of time where there's no evidence that you're struggling. You could have like PCP every 6 months. And then in the interval, within the 3 months in between that, you go to your ortho. So now you got to visit every 3 months. Maybe you have a podiatrist, and that's also every 6 months. We'll stick that in there. So now you got something 2 weeks later, That's what I would do. And you complain to your PCP about everything you complain to the specialist about, because this doesn't know your whole body, right? And some of the specialists should be hearing the same thing too, even though you're telling it to somebody else, right? That's kind of what I think. Gary says, here's code for individuals receiving Medicaid under the disabled ME. Is that like Medicaid eligible? Under the disabled adult DAC continuation rule. Same protection created by section. Yeah. Okay. So you know what section to go to, Val. And Gary's been very helpful to share it. And we have no reason to believe that they changed the rule for survivors versus dependents. So, all right. Belle says, thank you. I think I need to be making some calls. Yeah. I'm a bit complicated. At least that's what all of my doctors say. You do have a complicated medical situation. Hugs to you, and fingers crossed that you feel good, Belle. You've been living with a lot for a very long time. I'm glad your dad took care of you. I mean, that's like the gift that keeps on giving after he's gone. You know what I'm saying? Hakasad says, post ALJ filing, what are the usual steps at SSA? You just file it. Then it moves up to the OHO, and it's not at the SSA. It's at the Office of Hearings Operations, which I think they're changing that name, or recently did. I can't remember what the new name is. They change it periodically. So this is the step where there is no adjudicator. So you have to be involved in your case, getting the judge all the updated medical records. Find out what's in the file already. Where did Dr. Jones what last visit is in there? So you're going to want to get a copy of your file. And you can ask the OHO for that. And then you say, oh, they have Dr. Jones records through November of 2025. I've seen him 6 times since. I'm going to get him up there. And you might want to do that a second time before the hearing, any diagnostics, anything like that. You're going to be ordering your records, go and get them. I mean, have them mail them to you, but use that high-tech HIPAA form so you don't get to, they can't charge you out the nose, depending on what state you're in. It applies to all states because it's federal. All right. And then you will get letters saying they got your appeal, HACA, and you will get ones that say, hey, fill this out, and they're going to want all the updated stuff on your document, like who'd you see since we last updated your file, and what medications are you on, and have you worked? And then they'll ask you, do you agree or disagree to, I'm going to bring this up, guys, a hearing of a certain technology when you have your hearing. There are 2 forms, guys, the HA55 and the HA56. If you want your hearing to be MS Teams from the comfort and privacy of your own home, you need to sign both of those and check that you. So on the one, you're Xing off that you don't want agency video equipment and you don't want phone. That's on one. So you're checking those and you're signing it. The other one is you're agreeing to the MS Teams. So it's like my clients get confused with this all the time. Just the other week, we put a new red sign on top of both of the forms because we send them to the clients. We don't wait for the ALJ. It says you must sign both because we're doing it MS Teams. That's how we're doing it. Unless you want to fly me across the country and put me up in a really nice hotel for a few days, that's how these get done. And because I would generally prefer the visual of MS Teams versus phone, I don't opt for the phone for my people. There have been times where technology has gone awry a day and someone has to be on a phone. That happens. But I would never, choose it from the start. And then they'll eventually get you a hearing date and you're on your way to the races. Keep getting them the evidence, though. Keep treating, and getting diagnostics updated and get your case stronger because you just got denied twice. You want to change that trajectory. You want to give that judge something else to look at besides what 2 other people that are experienced in Social Security found to be not disabling. Make sense? John says SMCS. Oh, so it wasn't SEC. It was SMC housebound. Gotcha. Thank you. Racing Crazy's in the house. Hi, Racing. I was approved for SSDI for heart failure a few months ago. Can I work a few hours a month for old employer during computer training without risking benefits? How would I report income? Number one, that depends on your claim disabling condition, so I can't really speak to that without knowing your case a little better. Obviously, you're going to keep it under SGA. If you're smart, you might want to keep it under TWP. And I say smart, but that's not really fair. Sometimes it's not unsmart to be above TWP amount, but below SGA. Always below SGA. Don't flirt with that SGA. Say hundreds of dollars away from SGA, people. If you are winning by saying that you are, let's say you said you had social phobia, it's kind of hard to train people if you have that kind of anxiety. And then it might be inconsistent that you're really not as bad off as you made it look. What else? Or if you said, let's say you had a computer experience in the past, which you probably did. Let's say the reason why they found you couldn't do your prior work was because of very poor concentration, can't remember squat. Now you just show them that you do. So you really need to look at what your case was before, in my opinion. Your attorney might be able to help you with that. I know when I have clients, I already know all their back work stuff, so I can discuss it with them and give an opinion. And I keep hearing something over here. Now my tortoise is here. I brought her with me because I don't like the thought of her being in my office and flipping over and no one's there to flip her back. So she gets to the room of this house. So. But we try to keep her out of the carpeted bedroom. She's on the hardwood floor. Francine, you're welcome. She says, thank you for answering my question. Furry Plants in the house. Hi, Furry. If you get a payment from EEOC, how does that impact your SSDI? Equal Employment Opportunity Commission based on discrimination. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's not earned income. It's a sanction of sorts. It could be compensating you for lost work, of course, but that's not the same as you working for it now. So it shouldn't. It should be fun. I've never heard of it not being, so I haven't looked it up, but there's no reason for me to think it would impact it at all. Justin Zane says, I think it's, UWA. I thought you were talking to Umo. I got the spelling wrong. Successful work attempt, I think is what you're talking about. Also called a failed work attempt. Justin says, I keep getting recruiters contact me about high salary jobs. I'm in too much pain, but it makes one think about sucking away some cash for 5.5 months. Is that more damaging to case during application or after a favorable decision? Either way, they're going to take a long, hard look at you. I mean, you will be in your trial work period. I would definitely wait till your case is done for something that massive. Because you're talking about working over SGA, you said high income. If you were doing a job that was going to be low under SGA, I mean, you still get banged for trial work period. They do that retrospectively, by the way, but that doesn't mean you lose. I would be careful because now you're also showing that you can do that high skilled work. So some things are transferable, some skills are transferable. And that's something that your case might very well be one that you need to prove that that's not true. You need to prove the opposite. So usually when we're talking about working, it's not something as skilled as what we used to do, nor as physical, far less physical. I mean, what you're talking about recruiting is probably pretty sedentary, but it's skilled. It's fast thinking. It's smooth talking. It's a lot of things. I used to do it for lawyers very briefly. It was when I was leaving firm life to go hang my own shingle like 30 years ago, 25, something like that. Gary says, how are auxiliary benefits calculated? 50% of PIA or 50% of gosh. So you're talking about if someone is retired. It should be his PIA. I don't think his taking early retirement. I would double check this though. Like I said, I used to do articles in this town. I'm like, how was that rule? I do not think his taking of early retirement, which affects his benefit quite a bit, like 35%, affects the PIA, because the PIA is what will it be if I'm at full retirement age. So I believe it's 50% PIA, but we should get that confirmed if that's something you want to know. I think it'll be 50% of the full PIA. And of course, it's a failing maximum too, so don't forget that. You know what that's about, right, Gary? If you have multiple kids trying to take, they're not all going to get 50%, depending on how many there are. Sometimes two can. Depends on if a higher income earner tends to have a higher family max than a higher percentage, like up to like 180% or something. Kate Wood's in the house. Hi, Kate Wood. Hi, thank you so much for all the support. It's really level the help. Can you please describe, once you are approved, what to expect on getting monthly benefits? I'm not sure what the question is exactly. I mean, it's probably going to be direct deposited, and you can spend it how you want it. So I'm not sure what the question is. Can you be more specific? By the way, guys, we're just over the hour-and-a-half mark. John Phillips says, my sister, oops, sorry, I didn't click on you, John. Forgive me. Have we met, John? My sister-in-law works in SSDI law and said she has a case interesting enough, could maybe worth making a video on. Do you have an email she could email you on something like that? Would she like to do it with me? Like a joint video? People are so shy. I'm like, come on, guys, let's do it. I can get Shannon in here and Jonathan. Everybody else is just shy, I guess. But yeah, the email, tell her to email. She could just do contact@joydisability.com and we will get it. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. And she should jump into this fun things of Q&As and videos, and you meet so many great people. You really do. And it gives you, excuses. Like you saw Lee's choice here. I'm like, I haven't researched that in a while. Let me go look that. Because again, it's for the stuff that we don't represent people on that stuff, We do the medical. Umo says, I sent you a professional rebuttal letter for those CDs. Already? No, you don't have to send me the professional part. That's what I'll do. I just need to know your facts. That's why I said, list them out. You're so funny. But yeah, your list is good. Justin Zane says, if a claimant goes all the way to ALJ and is denied, is that game over without going to appeals council? Then just SOL? I think you mean chit out of luck until FRA with, not necessarily, Justin. What is the person's DLI? So let's say you get denied at ALJ and you decide not to do appeals council. You could reapply again if you have a DLI and that is at some date after the ALJ denial. All right. If you go to the appeals council and they deny you, you can then also file anew. You can also take the denied one and go to federal district court, either pro se representing yourself, or you find a lawyer that does that kind of work. All right. So it's all about that DLI. And you've been in here, Justin, probably enough to know that I'm always telling people, if you can work a little bit, just to keep the credits coming. If they're getting close to their DLI, check what your DLI is. It could be a few years out, which is good. But, if you do lose the next case down, you might want to think about, because as long as you have a DLI, you can keep filing and filing and filing. Right? And the problem, Justin, and this is really important, I've said this before, guys, if you just decide, okay, well, I lost my case, but I know I can't work, so I'm not going to work, or I'm going to be working like, a pittance, because I really can't do better than that because I'm in so much pain. If you don't go back to work and make what you were making before, your FRA, Social Security, actually, and your early retirement is going to crumble for most of us. Maybe not people like my age, because I only got a couple years left before 62, but for people who are 50 or less, and 55 still, even depending on what your work history is, you are now potentially putting in 7 years of zero value monthly income, right? 50 to 62, 7 years. And that's going to really weigh down your average monthly income for your top 35 years, probably. Because remember, your estimate was relying on the fact, and it expressly states so in the small print on your estimate that you download. It specifically says this is assuming that you continue to make the money you are making each year until 62, not that you went on, stopped working and made zero. That number up there is with the assumption that you keep working to 62. It's your 62-year-old age retirement. And the one that's 67 is, the one at 67, I think, is still, I have to double check. I think it's still the presumption that you work to 62. So even if you stop at 62, I think your 67 will still be like that. And of course, get COLA adjustments and stuff. It doesn't assume you keep working to 67. Don't hold me to it, but I think so, because I don't remember seeing that in the small print. So not winning and not going back to work in a normal fashion, not only are you not getting SSD, you're potentially decimating your retirement. That one that you were going to rely on that you thought was going to be 3,000 could now be 1,000, however the math works out. Hey, Virginia Gomez is in the house. Hey, Virginia. Good morning. Good morning, chica. Good morning. If I myself put on an app on the offset, I put 2013. I think you mean the onset, right? I have proof of medical lupus, been ill since. How far will SSI? SSI won't go back before the date you applied. If you're referring to SSD, they'll go back to whenever you said, so long as there's no intervening finding of not disabled because you already had a case. So yeah, I mean, you could say you were disabled since 2013. Obviously, you're saying I have been unable to work full-time or SGA since that time. So those two things will have to be true. There can be no SGA work in that time frame as well, or else that will be, you were not disabled when you're doing SGA, therefore there is no continuity. Sometimes we look at that, we're like, you're not gonna be able to, it's not gonna work for 2013. You had that 1 year that you went back and you earned, it was crappy, but it was over SGA. Sometimes we'll be like, all right, let's do it the day after you stop that job. because sometimes, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes people really, they do push themselves a lot of times, and if they hadn't pushed quite so hard, particularly if they know the rules that apply to their age group, they would have been found disabled because the rules get easier as we get older. You'll know, it's the harder challenge is when people are under 50. They have to do it's a whole different game. And they're probably most of the people that get denied of those numbers we see. I think because they just don't realize what they have to disprove. And yes, that job over 3 states away that exists in substantial numbers that you could do, yeah, that's going to stop you from winning, right? So it's about not being able to work at all, not being able to do most jobs, but could do some. It's about survival. Would you be able to do a job, basically? DVN is in the house. Hi, DVN. I don't think we've met. I did the mental evaluation, but feel like the appointed doctor working from home had family in my personal business and not actually focus on me and what I was saying and rush the appointment. Okay. I don't know what that means, had family in my personal business. So his report's probably pretty crappy. Did you see what he said? Were you able to get your hands on it? You might want to look at it. It's going to be hard to prove that he wasn't focused on you, probably. But when you read it, if he says he asked certain questions and he didn't, that means he's using a canned letter and just whatever the default answers say. Hakasad says, as a pro se claimant, what's the best way to submit a pre-hearing brief? Before the hearing. Sometimes we do post-hearing briefs too. There's no real category. Yeah, there is actually. When we go into the electronic file, representative brief, I think it's called. You obviously are your own representative, but you don't have access to that, I don't think. I would probably put it under third-party statements, maybe. Or do they have something where you can send in correspondence? I mean, I don't know, where are you sending it to? What do you guys see if you want to send it to your online Social Security account? Can you do that? Otherwise, you're going to send it by fax with whatever barcode you have to the judge. That can be a little sketchy if there's no barcode. Hey, Mike Page is in the house. Fashionably late, Mr. Mike. Boldly Dream is in the house. My first disability review, so CDR, was in March. Okay. I turned everything in on time. Is there a time limit as to when I will know if disability will be continuing or receive the... I don't know of one, just like there isn't for everybody else's case. And it's frustrating because sometimes people don't hear back at all. It'll be a year. Like, I haven't heard nothing. Or 2 years. I've heard of that happening. I don't know if that's standard. I really think what they should say is, we have discontinued the CDR and your benefits will continue. They don't have to give you any, they should send that. And I wonder if they will start to do that. I don't know, with this stuff they're doing through the SS account thing you have. Stephen Thompson says, yeah, my wife chewed my A blank blank. I say arse, like I'm Irish or something. Is that okay then? Arse. I guess I always think if I say a word in a different dialect or I don't know, that I can get away with it. I'm not over adding my back. We're not your better half is telling you. I can barely do much of anything as it is. I'm already on TDIU with the VA and cannot be around people anyway. She said women are generally right. Well, of course we are. Wise woman you got there. You go, girl. Christina, hi. How are you, my dear? Christina from California. Does expedite SSDI take same time as applying for SSDI? If so, then how will I have to wait for an approval? Expedite, do you mean an expedited reinstatement, like you were already disabled? The only reason that you lost your disability was because you're earning too much, not because you medically improved? And so you file an expedited reinstatement to say, hey, I don't want to do a regular application. I want to do it this way. And you can do that for up to 5 years after. Again, it's from being, you never medically improved. They didn't find you medically improved. They found that you were earning too much. And that's why you're a cease. I find that it doesn't really... It's expedited. I'm not really sure how and why, to be honest with you. It doesn't seem to go that fast. Maybe they have a presumption that you're still medically disabled, but they have to make sure that their presumption is not incorrect. Maybe it's something like that, which makes it almost sound like a CDR. Christina is my rock star. She says, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I agree. I should agree, and that's what you're all supposed to be doing. Furry's talking to Steve. I don't want to get involved in that. Justin Zane says, if you're successful in your case award and then move out of the country, are your CDRs pointed more towards no longer disabled? I don't think so. That would be very inappropriate. So I don't think that's true. But, you still have to make sure you have the goods wherever you move to. Always make sure the country you move to, you can get payments out and keep up with your treatment. And sometimes you might even want to get those records translated, maybe. Someone's going to have to translate them. And that's probably pretty easy now with, I know everybody hates the word AI, but probably with AI, there's programs that will translate them. And we have translator stuff all over the place. I'm sure they have it for medical. Haka says, how seriously do ALJs take the question, what is written on previous DDEs? Okay. I know they don't have to. They can go de novo. They always go de novo, actually. But in your experience, do they follow what's on a DDE, especially if it's positive? They definitely go de novo. However, I do get the sense that they look at the RFC that was given on that DDE that denied you. And that's why it's important to know what that is and then build up the evidence to knock down your RFC, the physical lifting and walking business, assuming you have those problems, because they seem to overestimate our capacity when it comes to exertional RFC. That's why we're always, if we get a denial, that's why we're appealing. We're like, clients are very upset, but we're like, yeah, well, that adjudicator got it wrong. We know it's wrong. Let's, get the doctor, build more evidence to fill up those gaps and make that more indisputable. That doesn't work if you have a remote DLI, guys. So, because you can't go back in time to when you had the insurance and stuff more evidence in there. So this is why I'm always kind of harping on you guys to try to keep that DLI ahead of you. You don't have to worry about if you have a 5-year window ahead of you because you've looked up your DLI and that's what it is. Great. You don't necessarily have to get a job when you first apply in year 1. But when you're down to, I don't know, a year and a half left, it's getting pretty tenuous. So I just hate to see that happen. Remember, Haka, also, the DDE has the RFC. That's a medical opinion by their doctor, not the CE doctor, the internal one. The DDE otherwise tends to only point to evidence. So it's the evidence the DDE people find important. You're going to be giving so much more evidence that those DDE people never saw, right? Because you're going to continue to build it for the judge. So just saying, you can even, so I used to do this. I don't know that I do it now because I have things laid out a little differently, but I would say exhibits 1F through 10F, Judge, were what the DDE, the DDS had when they did the DDE. As you can see, Judge, we now have 14 more exhibits. We're now up to 24. And, assuming the DLIs in the future, all this new evidence is going to be in the relevant time. So for what that's worth. Kate Wood says, is it a long wait before you receive payments? Not normally. Like if you prevailed, SSI could take a little longer because they have to do a perk, but SSD is usually pretty fast. But if you have SSI and SSD, they do the SSI first, so that holds up the SSD. It's like kind of a pain. No, I don't find it to take very long. Usually within a month, probably. Not to say there aren't exceptions all the time. Gregory Adams is in the house. Hi, Gregory. Hello, almost 59. Me too. We were probably womb mates in different wombs. Way back when. Diagnosed, I know I'm such a nerd with that joke, right, guys? Diagnosed with epilepsy 16 months ago, got denied too. Epilepsy is a hard one to win on. And waiting for an ALJ. In South Florida, working with an attorney, got doctor note last month, and that should help, thanks. Yeah, epilepsy is a tough one because you really have to prove how frequently it is. And it's with treatment that it's still frequently. Once it's under control, if that's the only thing you're riding on, and I hope it's not, Gregory, you're 59, there better be other things wrong with you. No offense, but those things will help you. All that old age generation is the bomb. Embrace it and use it. Christina says, always share the live stream. Just so you know, guys, the live streams come out later, broken up into segments with a few questions at a time, so nobody has to sit through, a 2-hour, or usually it's an hour and a half by the time we get the scrolling booted out. So they're like segmented, and so now we're kind of talking about which questions are in which ones, so people can kind of maybe see in the description, sometimes a little bit in the title, but probably more in the little description. And even the part that you can see, trying to have like the 3 major areas of the 3 questions that were in this, 15-minute segment or whatever. Just thinking it might be a little more usable for people that don't want to just sit and listen to a replay of a live stream. And then the replay does eventually come out with everything cut out of it, so it's a little faster too. And it's the whole thing, and then we have certain breakout ones. Umo says, okay, polite rebuttal. You don't need to write the letter, you just had to give me the facts. I'll write the letter. Capish? You're so funny. My past DDs found severity serious for 2 of my impairments, but did not go beyond step 2. Well, are there MDIs, and are they severe? No, he starts from the beginning. He's going to look at step 1, are you working SGA? Step 2, do you have a serious MDI? Step 3, do you have at least one severe MDI? Did I say that backwards? Do you have MDIs, true diagnoses? Are any of them severe? And then moves on to, and do they meet a listing? And if they don't, then you move on to step 3. So what do you mean they found, when you say the DD, you talking about the DDE, the adjudicator, and the final DD, disability determination explanation. I'm not sure what you're saying here. They went beyond step 2, or else they found you met a listing at step 2 and you were done. You follow? I mean, but ALJ will start from the beginning. Is he doing SGA? Does he have a medical insurance? You know, those are the kind of easy questions in the front. You just maybe didn't see it in the DD because you didn't know what words would mean the same thing, maybe. LaRocha's in the house. Hey, Stephanie and everyone in our group, thank you for your expertise. All things Social Security. You're the bomb. Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you, LaRocha. Are you late to the game today, my dear? Dio's in the house. I filed federal district court. SSA just sent me a letter stating they inadvertently did not add my additional evidence. You want to, do you have a separate case, Dio? Or are they telling the district court they'll take your case back and let you have another hearing? Like they're conceding to a remand and then you get another hearing? That's pretty cool, right? I don't know what that, I mean, that's what I'm thinking you're saying. Gregory Petty says, is it better and faster to fill out the short form disability update report online? I just did one with somebody actually in a consult, as opposed to mailing it in. I would think so, yes. Plus, how soon will they review it? And I would take screenshots. I wasn't sure at the end. I mean, I was submitting it for her with her on the phone and I wasn't sure if, I'm like, are they going to give her a receipt of all her answers? I wasn't sure, so I was like screenshotting just to be super safe. And I don't know that there was a receipt, you know, with the answers like there is when you do an application online. Not sure. But we did print it. We did print the thing that says you've submitted it. So keep copies so you have proof, because otherwise it's that you didn't respond and then you lose your CDR. So I think the online is good. I think it's a little easier actually. How soon will they review it? That I don't know. I would like to think if they sent it out that you are in someone's list already. You're not, because that information is going to get stale. They want your most 3 recent doctor visits. That's going to get stale if they wait 6 months. So I think they'd probably look at it pretty timely. Haka says, fortunately or unfortunately, my case is a retro case and pretty much relies. I'm sorry, Haka. You know, you could change that if it flies south or sideways. If you can get a new DLI by putting in a little bit of part-time, easy gig or self-employed to accommodated work, go through one of the disability agencies that help disabled people get jobs, very part-time jobs under SGA. It won't matter if you prevail though. It's only to protect you so you can continue on if you don't prevail. Neutralize. I don't think I see the following answer. All right. Humo says, we are probably coming down to the end, guys. It's been 2 hours on the dot. It is 3 p.m. Humo says, has there ever been a case that has gone to an ALJ on the second time applying, and that ALJ ever override an old ALJ denial from previous application? Is that possible? It is very remotely possible, and that it's never happened in my experience. But I know it's remotely possible under some very, very stringent conditions found by the new judge. So I would never, ever hang my head up. Never. Because the whole point is finality of a judge's decision when someone doesn't appeal it further. So now if it was a non-ALJ denial that you never took further, then the first ALJ on the case can feasibly reopen that one and then get you back to your old application. But that's far more, I wouldn't say it happens all the time, but it's definitely not rare. And Umo says, will that second ALJ ever look at the first? Yeah. I'm looking at some files right now that they have the old ALJ case that the person had in the file. I don't know why that is, but I think because if you're saying that you were disabled the day after that old ALJ's denial, because you think you were disabled the whole time, but this is a technical date they're going to apply to you, the day after the old ALJ denial date, I suppose it's understandable. They want to see, well, what did up until Monday, the judge found this. This is carved in stone. It's part of the case. It's res judicata, blah, blah. He says he's disabled this day. Usually they're going to be like, there better be some really big info. Like, he must have gotten hit by a truck this day. You know, you still use that technical date, but sometimes they're not going to find you disabled. If they're going to find you disabled, it won't be till something after, because you didn't even go to a doctor for 8 weeks or something. Maybe when you get your next diagnostic that shows something worse. You follow what I'm saying? I got to stop saying that. You follow what I'm saying? I keep saying that. I don't know why it's coming out of my mouth. I've got to switch it up. It's like robotic. Yikes. Umo says, does the second time one applies and goes to ALJ, is the first time ALJ denial ever looked at by second ALJ? Yeah, that's what you asked. And I said, yeah, probably, because it's in the file. I shouldn't say it's always in the file, but I often see it in the file, in the A section, for future reference. Gregory says, me again. The doctor did say in the letter, I have mood issues, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and memory loss. I'm almost 59. Okay. Get those physical things down, because it's very hard to win on mental alone, those things, if you don't have any physical problems. So you're going to try to win under a grid, Gregory. You must. It'll help. Those will probably help if you had skills. You're from a skilled job in your past relevant 5 years. Those might help to eliminate the transferability. But if you don't have physical, those grid rules of what I was just talking about, transferability, don't apply. You have to have physical problems to have the grids apply to. It's all about physical. The mental can also be the one question, but you can do the grids without mental. You can't do the grids without physical. Uh-oh. Can you guys, my screen just went blank. You know, I'm in a place where, I don't know, there's cable, but I don't know. Almost says, thank you for all your help, Stephanie. My pleasure. Wow. Barbara says, you're the best attorney. You're very sweet. Appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Oh, thank you. You guys really are. Can I tell you, I think you've heard me say this. Wednesdays are my favorite day of the week. I get my good feeling vibes on. Everything else is like plow through and work and all that stuff. So, including weekends. So, Wednesdays are the most fun. You get to really hang out and talk to people and help in a different way. And I really, really, really enjoy it. When and if I get some income from all this, I'm sending dollars for you and the hubby to have an easy to digest dinner. I'll be finding out what things I can work back in. Craziness. Yeah. You know, they say after you get your gallbladder out, you got to really be so crazy about the fats. I didn't have to worry about it. I'm thinking now I was wrong. Oh, well, I'm on it now. And I'm seeing so much positivity that can come out of it anyway. It'll be easier to lose weight. It'll be probably having more energy. Not that I lack energy, as you know, but I always want to have more. Yeah. So Umo says, good to know. Oops. Good to know. It is in the file. If you're talking about the ALJ, I have a feeling it is, but sure. But either way, I mean, they don't put it in there for a good reason. You know, it did deny, you know, if you had a previous ALJ decision, it did deny you. And he says, so Jay, I feel like I got hit by a truck with this cast on my wrist arm next 3 to 4 months, but it's good for us. Case-wise, you've got a Kmart screen. You got a Kmart screen going on. I have a Kmart screen going on? What does that mean? Kmart went bankrupt, didn't it? We had one in my town where I live now, and it's gone. Turned into a giant grocery store. Kmart screen. What is a Kmart screen? What does that mean? Danny O. Gregory Adams says, I was the one with epilepsy, did all labor jobs, high school. Oh, I see what you're saying. So the epilepsy, though, is not so much the exertional. Well, it kind of is, but it's... Read the listing, Gregory. There's a listing for that. And look at how epilepsy is tough unless they are uncontrolled. Because if it's controlled, then it's not limiting you, right? You just got to take your meds. More physical. Come on, you're 59. We're going to be 59. Knees, Gregory, is all of your body parts, all your joints, are they as good as they were when you were 20? You could use them 8 hours a day like you could when you were 20, 5 days a week, week after week after week. If not, I mean, can you stand 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? Can you walk 8 hours a day? Can you lift 100 pounds frequently? How about occasionally? How about 75 pounds? How about 50? These are all the things I'm talking about. I would be very surprised if you don't have multiple joints that can't do that stuff. So you need to think about it. You have an attorney, though, I think you said, so that's good. He's thinking about it. It's epilepsy, I don't know. You would think it's got a little bit of, a person with epilepsy, if they're strong, they can lift 100 pounds. So then the question is, that doesn't necessarily make you have an RFC less than medium, which is what you need, Gregory. You need to have an RFC that does not allow you to do medium or heavy work at 58 to grid. Now, you don't need to grid if your epilepsy listing out. That's why I said, look at those listings. Then you don't even have to get an RFC. Get the listings. If your neurologist, whoever handles your epilepsy, it's established that you're still having 2 a week. You need to check it out. You need to get very specific. It's funny. Danny said your screen wasn't working. It went a little black. I think it's really the internet connection sometimes. But this is not a Kmart screen. I will tell you, this is a MacBook Pro, a couple months old. I still have my old one. And this one costs 3 times as much as my other one because of how much RAM and space I put on it. Because I don't want to have anything getting in my way of doing what I need to do. So I really went, every year as you're my husband told me a long time ago, if you don't invest in your business, you expect what you get. So you got to put money. So we've always kind of done that. And this was my next thing because even softwares take up more space, more RAM. So you got to kick it up. And they charge you out the yin yang. They charge you so much more for that than they do for the computer. I don't really get it, but it seems so esoterical. RAM. What's the other thing? gigabyte. I don't know. It's so outside of my knowledge base. Umo says, it's good to know that second ALJ can look back and hopefully see from records how things have worsened. Oh, worsened, right. Well, that's true. I.e. Nor walk to a cane, to a walker with prosthetics. Yeah. By the way, when you say prosthetics, I think of leg replacement or something. If you mean a brace, just say brace because people get confused. Prosthetic is like a fake limb. That's the way we kind of look at it. All right. That is the last of the questions, guys. I think we're good. We're at 3:11. That's 2 hours and 11 minutes. Blah, blah. If anyone has a question, you can put them under any video, this one or any other one. I will see it eventually. I'm a little slower on them than I used to be, but I get to them all. It just might take me a number of days. And I will respond. If you ask a question, I'm going to answer it if I can. If it's suitable for a video, I would prefer to do that so other people can see it. If not, I will just probably press a button and dictate to you right there. So if you see typos, that's why. And if it's just a hello, I'll just do a heart and a like and, sometimes a hello back, but I want to make sure I get to everybody, right? Anyway, it's been fun, guys. I think, Umo says, yes, it's a brace from prosthetic department. Thank you. Respect. Oh, Gregory Adams, you're welcome. Respect to you too, pal. Yeah, there's Gregory Adams in the house. We have a Gregory Adams and we have a Gregory Petty. See you next week, Gregory Petty, as well. Hope I see all of you next week. That would be great. Come with questions. And if you have any ideas on videos, definitely feel free. We could talk about questions you have here and then do a video also with a little more detail, whichever way works. But I love seeing you guys here. Thanks for putting in a hello for those of you that did and didn't just watch so I could know you're here because otherwise I don't know who it is. Yeah, what did it say? Like, share, and subscribe. And if you ever want to be a member, do that as well. It's nothing major, but it helps the channel. As do the 12 o'clock guys. The 12 o'clock, the live streams don't really do so much because I don't do the commercials. They say you could do commercials. I'm like, that's going to really annoy people from coming to a live stream. So I don't do the commercials. The 12 p.m. pre-recordeds have something in the beginning, I think, probably like what I see when I go watch YouTube, and maybe something depending on how long it is in the middle. But I figure the pre-recorded, so that doesn't really matter. And those help the channel, and those are made. I would say doubled or tripled our 1%ers. Much thanks to you guys on that. It's not that we expect them to actually cover the whole bill for the 1%ers, but it helps take the sting out and makes it easier to take more of them. So, and I don't know if we can get some of our colleagues to take some too. It would be great, but I know some people can't afford to do that. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you much and have a great rest of your week and a great weekend and stay as healthy as you can. God bless, be well, and don't let the people stress you out there. Okay? It's really good to see you. I'll talk to you guys later.